Let me tell you something that took me decades of reading, writing, arguing, laughing, and occasionally losing my mind to truly understand. There is one rule, just one, that separates people who live extraordinary, creative, self-directed lives from people who sleepwalk through the reality tunnel handed to them at birth. Not 10 rules, not 7 habits, one. And the moment it clicks for you, you will never again be the same kind of confused you used to be. I've spent my life poking holes in certainty. I wrote about it, lectured about it, drove academic philosophers to mild fits of indignation about it. And the more I poked, the more I realized that the single greatest enemy of human success, real success, meaning the expansion of consciousness, freedom, creativity, and joy, is not laziness. It's not poverty. It's not bad luck. It is the absolutely ferocious, almost religious conviction that you already know what's real. Now, before I give you the rule, I want to ask you something. And I mean this sincerely. Drop it in the comments because I genuinely want to know. What is the one belief you hold so tightly that you've never seriously questioned it? The one thing you'd feel almost insulted if someone challenged? That's the one I'm talking about. That's the one that's running your life more than you are. Tell me below. I read these things. I'm curious about your reality tunnel. Now, the one rule for success, the one I kept discovering over and over again in different disguises throughout my life is this. Never mistake the map for the territory. That's it. That's the whole game. Alfred Korzybski said it first in those exact words. I said it louder and with more jokes. But if you can truly, operationally, in your bones, understand that the word is not the thing, the description is not the described, the belief is not the reality, then you have handed yourself the master key to almost every domain of human achievement. Think about what I'm actually saying here. Every single human being walks around inside a model of reality, a map built from language, from childhood conditioning, from cultural programming, from neurological quirks you inherited from ancestors who were terrified of predators on the African savanna. That map feels like reality. It feels immediate and true and obvious. But it is a map. It is a construction. It is, as I like to say, a reality tunnel, and you are inside it. And most people never once climb out to check whether the tunnel actually goes where they think it goes. When I wrote the Illuminatus trilogy with Robert Shea, we weren't just writing a bizarre, funny, deliberately chaotic novel about conspiracy theories. We were writing a manual for map questioning. Every time the narrative contradicted itself, every time a character turned out to be someone else, every time a conspiracy explained everything and then was revealed to be part of a bigger conspiracy, that was the point. We were trying to break the reader's autopilot. We were trying to create the experience of not knowing, because not knowing is the beginning of actual intelligence. Most self-help, most success literature hands you a new map and says, use this one instead. Replace your old beliefs with these beliefs. Think positive. Visualize abundance. Repeat affirmations until the old programming fades. And I understand the appeal. A new map is comfortable. But what I'm suggesting, what I spent my career suggesting, is something far more radical and far more effective. Learn to hold the map lightly. Learn to say maybe. Learn to live comfortably in the space between certainty and chaos, because that space is where all genuine creativity, all genuine discovery, all genuine success actually lives. Here's a concrete example of why this matters. I watched over decades brilliant, talented people fail, not because they lacked intelligence, not because they lacked effort, but because their map told them what was possible. Their map said, people like me don't do things like that. Their map said, the market doesn't work that way. Their map said, I'm not the kind of person who succeeds at this. And because the map felt like territory, they never questioned it. They argued for their limitations with extraordinary skill and passion. They were geniuses at being stuck. Meanwhile, the people I watched build remarkable lives: artists, scientists, entrepreneurs, mystics, writers, troublemakers of every variety, they all had one thing in common. Not ambition, though many had it. Not talent, though most had that too. What they shared was an almost eerie comfort with not knowing, a willingness to be wrong, a genuine, almost childlike curiosity about whether their current model of reality was actually accurate. They kept treating their beliefs as hypotheses rather than commandments. This is what I call the snafu principle in action, extended beyond its original communication context. When you are certain, information stops flowing. When you are open, information, real information, useful information, transformative information can actually reach you. Certainty is a closed system. Uncertainty, properly inhabited, is an open one. Now, I want to be precise here because this gets misunderstood constantly. I am not saying believe nothing. I am not saying all ideas are equally valid. That's a sloppy reading that drives me to irritation. Certain maps are better than others. A map that accurately reflects the territory is more useful than one that doesn't. The scientific method, which is a systematic process for updating your map based on evidence, is vastly superior to revelation, tradition, or wishful thinking as a tool for understanding reality. The point is not to abandon maps. The point is to know you're using one. The point is to stay nimble, curious, and willing to revise. When I got diagnosed with post-polio syndrome later in my life, when I was in genuine pain and financial difficulty, I had to apply this principle in the most personal, unglamorous way. My map could have told me, this is the end. You are declining. There is nothing left to do but suffer and wait. That map was available to me. It was almost seductive in the way self-pity can be seductive. But I kept asking, is this map accurate? Is this actually all that's available? And I found not magic, not denial, but genuine alternatives. Different relationships to pain, different creative projects, different ways to be in a difficult body, in a difficult situation. The territory was hard. But no map of the territory is the territory, and a different map genuinely opened different doors. Success, whatever definition you're using, requires you to see opportunities your current map is hiding from you. Every stuck career, every failing business, every stagnant relationship has at its center a map that everyone involved is treating as territory. The person who can step back, see the map as a map, and ask what else might be true here, that person has an almost unfair advantage. Not because they're smarter, because they're more epistemically mobile. I also want to say something about the relationship between this rule and creativity specifically, because I think it's underappreciated. Creativity is not about generating random ideas. It's about the ability to momentarily suspend your model of how things are supposed to work, enter genuine not knowing, and allow something new to emerge from that space. Every artist I've admired, and I've admired quite a few unusual ones, had this capacity. They could unknow things. They could sit in the uncomfortable, productive space of I don't know what this is yet without immediately grabbing for the nearest familiar category to stuff it into. That tolerance for ambiguity is not just a personality quirk. It is the engine of novelty. The same applies to business, to science, to any domain where actually new things need to happen. The people who change industries are not the ones with the most detailed maps of how the industry currently works. They're often the ones who looked at that map and said, with genuine curiosity rather than nihilism, interesting, but what if this part isn't true? So here is how I'd actually apply this. Start small, pick one belief, one thing you're certain about, and spend a week treating it as a hypothesis, not attacking it, not replacing it, just noticing, what evidence would change my mind about this? What would I need to see to update this view? What am I not noticing because this belief tells me there's nothing there to notice? You will be astonished at what becomes visible. Not because reality changed, because your map got a little more honest about being a map. then expand it. Do this with beliefs about yourself, with beliefs about your industry, your relationships, your politics, your metaphysics, not with anxiety, with curiosity. Treat your own reality tunnel like an anthropologist treats a fascinating culture. It's yours. You built it. It makes a certain internal sense, and it is not the territory. I've had people ask me over the years whether this philosophy, this radical committed agnosticism about one's own certainties leads to paralysis. Doesn't it become impossible to act if you're always questioning? My answer is absolutely not. You act on your current best map while holding it lightly enough to revise when new information arrives. A good navigator uses the best charts available while remaining alert to evidence that the charts are wrong. That is not paralysis. That is wisdom. That is the only sane way to move through a reality that is consistently stranger and richer than any map of it will ever be. The great tragedy I observed in human life, and I observed quite a lot of it, in myself included, is not suffering. Suffering is often unavoidable and sometimes even useful. The great tragedy is the unnecessary suffering caused by clinging to maps that stopped serving you years ago, defending certainties that are actually limitations, arguing for a version of reality that keeps you small and confused and resentful of anyone whose map allows them more freedom. The one rule for success is not a productivity hack. It's not a morning routine. It's a fundamental shift in how you relate to your own mind, to your own beliefs, to your own model of what is possible for you and for the world. It is, in the deepest sense, a practice. You never finish it. You just get better at it. And as you get better at it, I promise you, not as an empty motivational gesture, but as an empirical observation from a long and genuinely strange life, the territory opens up. New possibilities that your old map had made literally invisible become real, actionable, available. Never mistake the map for the territory. Question your certainties not with despair, but with delight. Hold your beliefs like good tools, not like sacred objects. Stay curious, especially about the things you're most sure of. And understand that every moment of genuine discovery, every creative breakthrough, every unexpected success, every deepening of your understanding of yourself and the world begins in the same place. It begins in the honest, courageous, liberating admission, maybe I don't quite know what's actually here. That is the rule. That is the whole game. And you can start playing it right now in whatever corner of reality you happen to be standing in. If something in this landed for you, or if you think I'm completely wrong, especially if you think I'm completely wrong, tell me in the comments. That conversation is part of the practice. And if you want to go deeper into the ideas I've spent my life exploring, the books, the lectures, the rabbit holes that genuinely rewired my reality tunnel, stick around. There's a lot more territory to cover.